Oh, David.
Hi, Dave.
What's your favorite video game of all time?
I'm going to go with one that was probably banned in your household as a child, which was Combat on the Atari game console.
I mean, really? Like not an arcade game? Just like something at home, huh? Well, mine is Space Invaders.
Which we also had at home, and which I liked. But anyway.
Yeah, but it was like 2 years later or whatever it was on a home console version, not with like that, boom, boom, boom echoing through the arcade, which is so cool.
I was never a big hanging out in the arcade guy, and to this day, when I find myself in that kind of setting, I'm really just about the skee ball. So,
I mean, okay, skee ball's fun.
Skee ball is awesome. Skee ball is one of the best activities in the world. But getting ahead of ourselves here, because first we have to let people know that we're off and running with Stupid Gen X Tricks, the podcast for people who used to be cool. This is where two old friends who met working in the Clinton White House, of all places, take a look at the culture that shaped our generation, what, if anything at all, that all means today, how we can learn and grow and make the world a better place for everyone, except we don't really learn or grow and don't think a lot about how to make the world a better place for other people. We mostly just spend our time making snide comments and arguing about useless trivia.
And there will be plenty of that today as we continue our series of taking every other episode to focus on a single year from our era, which brings us to 1978.
Yes.
When I was 8 years old and you were 10, if I'm correct, so solidly in the prime of our lives.
Right, you are. We'll start out with some.
There's the number, 78.
You survived the blizzard of 1978, which I'm sure we will talk about as we progress in our program here, because we're going to start out with some personal reminiscences, which might include that snowfall that your shirt references. And then we'll do a rundown of some of the big things that happened in the wider world, which could also actually include the blizzard. And then we'll dive into what we're most interested in talking about, which won't include the blizzard, which will be music and TV and movies and all those things. And we'll wrap up, as always, with the wormholes, and we'll remind you of the importance of subscribing and liking and so on and so forth. And at some point during the hour or so that we're here, Dave, I expect that you will do an impression of one of the pop culture figures we end up discussing. I don't really care which.
Okay. Yes, maybe Garfield the cat. He's silent. I'll do it right now.
Well, then you have to eat lasagna, I think, on camera. I think that's
like that comes all too naturally to me. All right.
Do you have some handy, I guess, is really the question.
I mean, the odds are pretty good, but in fact, it's outside of arm's reach. Yes. Well, starting with ourselves, I asked the video game question at the top because 78 was the year the Atari home system became a big hit.
Right, and Combat was the game that came free with it. Was the only one, so that's where you start out.
Did you get it that first year? Were your parents progressive like that?
I don't know. Actually, if it wasn't that year, it was the next year. And no, my parents generally were not generous like that, but it was, I don't remember the circumstance, but we got it and it was cool.
I had to buy it myself and it wasn't Atari. It took me a few years. I ended up with ColecoVision. Yes. So no offense to potential future guests who may or may not have been involved with certain systems.
Atari was much cooler. We all acknowledge that.
It was and is. So what else stands out in your memory from 1978?
So I was trying to think. I made some notes here, but one of the things that stands out for me is actually it was the first time, and I was by that point playing soccer and pretty into that. And it was the first time that I experienced, or I think maybe even ever heard of, the World Cup, which happened in Argentina that year, and Argentina won it. And I don't think it was on TV at all in the US. The final might have been on Wide World of Sports or something. But what I vividly remember is seeing the pictures in Sports Illustrated of the celebrations and of just the crowd and the fans. And I was like, this is a world that I want to engage with, and hopefully we're able to do that here in the United States in 2026, and nobody decides to kick people out of the country for some reason. Anyway, we'll leave that aside. The other big memory I have from that year is that I desperately wanted to own some like shiny disco attire, like those velvety shirts that people used to wear and stuff that were not things that my parents were going to buy for me. That in fact, I think
what about like the fish tie T-shirt that was not disco, but was popular among nerds of a certain
I probably
era
would have wanted one of those too, but it doesn't stand out as much. And the other stands out largely because it was a desire to own that sort of clothing was something that my father mocked fairly mercilessly, and so that sticks with you.
Was he right?
I don't know. I think my life would be different today. Certainly my wardrobe would be different today if that mocking had not been as internalized as it has been, as witnessed by the boring collared blue shirt that I'm wearing at the moment.
There's so many fun things we can blame our parents for, and fashion sense certainly should be included in that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, as referenced by the T-shirt, I think the blizzard of '78, which blew in January of that year to Michigan, and I'm sure it hit some surrounding states, but I was not focused on them. And we literally got snowed in. Like we were so snowed in, there was, I think it was 20 inches of snow that morning, and drifts up to 10 feet in mid-Michigan. And we could not open our front door.
Wow.
Luckily, our back door opened inwards, so we were able to get out there. And there's even a photo that, I don't know if I can dig it up in time for the edit, but of me buried in a drift by my dad's super ugly van that he used to transport recycled newspapers. He was ahead of his time in that regard. The other thing that was striking about it was the melt that happened later in the spring, because then everything flooded. And I remember my dad would take me on his big, ugly Schwinn heavy-duty bike, where he would put me in the basket he had on the front that had a box in it.
That's
and
safe.
He would stop and... Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, he drove pretty safely, but my butt really hurt after those, like multi-mile rides in a basket. But he would put me in that basket and bike me over to preschool. And I remember one time the water had gotten so high, we were 3 miles from any river, and there was a huge like pond basically on the 4-lane road we were coming down, where the cars weren't even passing, but Dad was biking through it with me in the basket, hoping he didn't wipe out. And a fish came by, like in the middle of the road. There was a fish flopping around below the bike wheels. It was the craziest thing. I wanted him to catch it, but he was unable to do that. And then the other thing that happened later that spring was there was a lot of fuss made over a certain 6'8" point guard from Lansing, Michigan, one town over, and everyone on the planet was recruiting him, including Michigan State. And we did happen to win that recruiting battle over pretty much everyone else.
I've heard something to this effect somewhere along the lines. Yes.
Yes. He in fact, one of the determining factors in the recruitment was whether or not the school in question would agree to let him play point guard, because he was tall enough to play forward, which is where most schools envisioned him. But Michigan State did win that battle, and who might you be guessing?
It was Larry Bird, right?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Or perhaps it was Magic Johnson.
Irvin Johnson, please.
Irvin, yes.
Yes.
Dubbed Magic even in high school. That was not a college or NBA nickname. He was Magic. He averaged 16 assists a game to go along with his 28 points and 12 rebounds. Have you ever heard of a high school player averaging that kind of assist total?
No, that's pretty, I mean, it also speaks to the quality of the team, I'm guessing, because obviously you can't, no matter how good a passer you are, you can't get assists if the other guys can't shoot. But
I don't know. I mean,
Uh,
Magic always made everyone better around him. I don't think there were any other NBA draft picks
yeah,
on his high school team, but you never know.
you never know.
Um,
Well, let's move on to the items in the news. And I want to start, Dave, with three things that happened in 1978 that were blips on the radar screen at the time, but that have had pretty substantial impacts, I think, on the world. And the first of them was the launch of the first geopositioning satellite, which I doubt even made news at the time, right? It was just a thing that happened that had some military application, I guess, that obviously now, means that nobody in the world ever has to look at a map or know where they're going again. And then again, like really minor step taken by the American government at the time with the legalization of home brewing, which, again, like at the time, there were like 2 or 3 big breweries in the country and that was it. And you drank Miller or Budweiser and that was beer. And maybe if you were fancy, I guess there were probably some imports, but like that legalization paved the way for the whole craft brew revolution that I think has had a big impact, not only on those of us who enjoy quality beer, but on like a lot of downtowns and a lot of like the early, like it's always seems like any neighborhood that's revitalizing, right? The craft brewery is one of the first places that comes in. And that all came from that little legal action. And then, of course,
by the way, I've heard that those are now on the decline and that they're starting to shut down. Have you heard that?
I have heard that it is certainly not in evidence here in Pittsburgh. And I think I mean,
You guys are a bunch of alcoholics there,
beer, I mean,
clearly.
beer drinking in general among younger cohorts is way down of any variety. And I think going out to eat in public or drink in public is way down since the pandemic still in any variety. And so it would make sense if those are suffering along with those larger trends. The third thing I wanted to focus on, though, Dave, happened right there where you are in Arkansas, where the people of that fine state saw fit to elect a 32-year-old quasi-hippie to be their governor, which started an unlikely chain of events that led to this podcast. So that is something that we should probably note and celebrate.
Yes, Bill Clinton running in Arkansas. Perhaps the most significant thing to come out of it is this podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Can't think of anything else, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, some other big things that happened that year was the first BBS, the bulletin board system.
Cool.
The Camp David Accords, which taught me what Camp David was, and
Did it teach you what
eventually-
accords are?
oh, we just had a bird wipe out into the window. That's sad, but it's okay.
All right.
It did. I probably. I remember earnest teachers trying to explain it all to us in school, and then and of course the 33-day papacy of Pope John Paul I, who was then succeeded by Pope John Paul. Can you guess the number?
In a strange twist, he was second and a half.
Yes. Okay. And then assassinations. Harvey Milk, George Moscone. Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
The Jonestown Massacre, and the first test tube baby. So things were getting nutty that year.
Yeah. That was, yes, it was. And there's a great book that I might have referenced when we talk about 77, Reaganland by Rick Perlstein. It's a massive tome, but that it's just all about everything that was going on in that period of time, with a sort of primary focus on politics, but it talks about everything. And it really just like things were going crazy in the world in those years. And I remember being sort of like vaguely aware of that sense of insanity. And I think it permeated probably a lot of our generation's consciousness at that just like baseline level. But it was interesting reading. I should get back on script and just note, since we're getting into the last couple of years when people being born qualified as Gen Xers, and note that a couple of the notable late period Gen Xers born that year included Kobe Bryant while we're talking about great basketball players, and Volodymyr
And Lakers.
Volodymyr Zelensky while we're talking about great comic actors who became presidents and unlikely inspiring leaders. John Legend, who is none of those things but a cool guy, and Zoe Saldana, about whom the same could be said.
So do I understand you to basically be saying by extension that Ronald Reagan was a great comic actor?
I've never watched a Ronald Reagan film, but I think he did do some comedy parts, didn't he? And I've never watched a Volodymyr Zelensky film or television show either, so we don't know how good he was in those roles either.
Yes. I guess we're going to have to leave that for another episode. But
Yeah.
I think it is time for our listeners to hire drone shows to help us publicize this endeavor, or a skywriting plane, or really whatever. But yeah, we hope you'll hit
flash
those buttons.
mobs. Could we do some paid flash mobs and get people just to go out in the streets and start chanting "Stupid Gen X tricks, stupid Gen X tricks"?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of fake mobs in the streets that perhaps are also being hired. So why not? They're probably looking for work to do on off days.
All right, there we go.
Amid the glow of Broadway light, you'll find there's magic in the night. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. When you're dressed in fancy clothes, you want a special pantyhose. Gentlemen prefer Hanes. Hanes will make you smooth and silky, shapely, sexy. Heads will turn, you know it's true. All eyes can't help but notice you.
Hanes pantyhose, ultra sheer, and now understatement.
All right. We're back, and let's really dive into the 1978 of it all now and start with the motion pictures. The top box office hits of the year, I'll start with those. Grease, which, very few notes. Superman, the original Superman movie, which was awesome.
Very few notes on Grease? Really? I mean, everyone was talking about it at school. The girls were dressing up as Sandy. The boys wanted to be John Travolta. Did that just go right over your head?
No. I meant that in a positive, like good, great movie. Not a lot to criticize about it. Kind of sense of very few notes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No. And as a kid who was, at that point in my life, like in chorus and aspiring to be in musical theater things, anything of that variety. And I kind of remember we actually did some songs from Grease in middle school choir at some point, which was
every middle school
exciting.
in America did.
Yeah. Anyway, the Christopher Reeve Superman, which, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, the whole thing was great. Animal House, which I'm going to come back to in a second. Every Which Way But Loose, Clint Eastwood. Jaws 2, about which I might say no notes in the negative. I have nothing to say about Jaws 2 kind of way. Heaven Can Wait, which I guess was a remake of an earlier movie.
Yeah.
But was pretty good, and I remember people being pretty into the fact that there was like a movie about football. I think to middle school boys seemed like a pretty cool thing. And but Animal House is the one really because I think it was the first of those kind of, it was National Lampoon's Animal House, of that school of comedy that became like so dominant in our lives, right? For the next, I'm going to say 20 years, but I could say 40 years or more. That if you and your friend group was anything like mine, I mean, all the way through high school and college and well beyond, just going around quoting from all those movies constantly. And it definitely started with Animal House, which is a pretty awesome movie that I would be happy to continue talking about. And until you start doing some John Belushi imitations, and then we'll be ready to go.
I'm a zit. Get it? Okay. Yes. Well, I perhaps can't speak in as great a detail about Animal House as you, but my gosh, what a movie. And it holds up, and it's still outstanding. And yeah, that's comedy greatness. That's just straight up greatness. It happens to be a comedy.
Although there's
Um,
pathos there too, I think, right, Dave? When they get the double secret probation, I think everyone sheds a little bit of a tear.
yeah, and of course, we all have nothing but empathy for those preppy frat boys and sorority chicks. They're all such a delightful lot.
Yeah.
But now my son's in a fraternity, so I have to be more open-minded about
Has he
that
seen
culture.
Animal House, do you think?
I feel sure he does, but we did not watch it together, I don't believe.
Hmm.
And I think I mentioned Project X before, which is not frat specific, but feels like it's kind of that ilk.
Yeah.
And I do love that movie, and I bet you still haven't watched it, right?
I still haven't, but I swear I will do. I
I'm
swear.
going to bring it up every episode until you watch it.
All right.
Okay, so there was also some influential movies that year.
Yes, there
I
were.
appreciate you left the artsy stuff for me, and you took the mainstream stuff. That's very selfless. The Deer Hunter, Midnight Express, none of which I was able to see because I was 8 years old. Coming Home, I remember my parents saying it was very intense. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, An Unmarried Woman, The Buddy Holly Story, The Last Waltz, which of course is an Arkansas thing, the band being an Arkansas.
One member of the band being an Arkansas person.
Yeah, well, that's good enough for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Foul Play, Interiors, was that like a Woody Allen serious movie?
I think it was, and that it wasn't, I don't know if it was any good or not. It was commercially successful, I think. And I think like when, yeah.
Weren't most of his films not commercially successful?
So no, I think like Annie Hall and like that,
Oh,
like
that's
that
right, yeah.
string of like these big, more comic
Yeah.
movies were pretty big hits. I think they were.
Yeah.
Let me just say that as someone who grew up among, at least somewhat intellectual Jews in the New York metropolitan area, Woody Allen films were a major cultural staple for my
Yes.
parents and their friends and everyone else that we knew.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes. In fact, that extended beyond the Jews of New York to the everyone of everywhere else in the brainy, educated college degree set. I think everyone else was like, what's up with that guy? The other one I'm saving the best for last because it was so great and still is so great is Terrence Malick's second film, Days of Heaven, a movie that has taken is probably among my most watched movies of all time, certainly among the most beautiful movies ever made, and just a magical film in every way.
But I have to admit, I don't know the movie or even much about it. What's the deal on what makes it so good?
Well, it is absolutely beautiful. And I discovered it when I watched a documentary on the history of cinematography, and I was madly writing.
So relatable.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. It's a White House story. I skipped out of this film was at the Key Theater in
Georgetown, yeah.
and it was on its last day, and I hadn't seen it because we were really busy, and it was a Thursday, and there was going to be like a 3:00 show, and they didn't have any evening shows, and then it was gone, and I had stuff to do at work. It was the middle of a work day, and I just left work. I turned off my pager, prayed nothing.
I'm
major
calling
came up.
I'm calling Jeff Eller right now.
Eller. I was afraid, in particular, of Jeff Eller's wrath. And also, what was really funny is I didn't walk around with paper and pencil when I went to movies. And all of a sudden, as this movie starts rolling, I'm like, oh my God, there's all these movies to see. And all I had was the waxy bottom for a brownie I bought at the counter there. And so I flipped over, I pulled it out. I had some kind of pen, and I was writing notes around the ingredients of the back of the brown, because the flip side was kind of greasy from the, because it was like one of those like higher quality brownies they made. So I don't think I have it anymore, but I used to have this thing which was like Days of Heaven around the top edge, and then like How Green Was My Valley, or whatever the other titles were. And so when I saw it there, I was like, oh my God, this movie is so beautiful. So you asked about the story, and the story is about a family that is working on a farm in Panhandle, Oklahoma or Texas, I forget which side of the border it was on. in the late 1910s.
Mhm.
They're basically migrant workers, and it's Richard Gere as the father and Brooke Adams as the mother, and then a young actress named Linda Hunt. I may have her last name wrong. Who's it's the only role I think she really had of any note, and she's unbelievably good. And then there's this kind of complicating factor of the farmer, played by Sam Shepard, who they all become entangled with while working on his farm. And it's just the most beautiful movie ever made, I think. And, and also like a really fascinating story.
I will look for it. I don't know the plot points, of course, because it was not parodied in Mad Magazine, I guess, because I realized going back over the films of this period is right. There's a lot of the movies that were more adult intended. I never saw, or I didn't see until many years later, but I knew a lot about them from reading the Mad Magazine parodies, and like they were actually pretty true to the main plot points of movies, and so you'd get at least a feel for what the Deer Hunter was about just from that.
Yeah, this makes me think. You're absolutely right about that, and it also reminds me of that the best part of Mad Magazine, which was the fold-up thing, where you folded the two sides.
I don't know that was
illustration.
the best part of the Mad Magazine, but anyway,
no.
we can save that.
Well, I'm a visual guy.
Day,
You're
yeah.
like you want to read all the great writing in Mad Magazine, like you liked all the great writing in those other magazines. But I like the pictures. Like I like the pictures in this. Who knew that had such legs?
I didn't know you were going with that transition, but let's leave that aside and move on to music, Dave.
Yeah, but first of all, I think we need to have a promotion for our show that is a foldable graphic of us, because everyone would want that. How
would people access that through the internet? You would have to make it an animation that you click a button and it folds.
No. We need to go old school. This is like, we're going to make a letterpress print that's foldable. It's going to be very elaborate. And if you give us a certain large amount of money, we will make sure that happens and we'll send it to you.
All right.
Okay, so the music scene was a kind of a divided world. Disco was at the peak of its popularity, but was largely looked down upon by the rock music world. Also, by the way, I believe roller skating movies and roller skating culture also had similar derision, but I thought it was all pretty outstanding as an 8-year-old.
Did you do a lot of disco skating, Dave?
I aspired to it, and I remember going to a movie about like a roller skating competition or something. It was pretty, would like an objective critical eye would tell you it's a terrible movie, but of course as an 8-year-old I thought it was outstanding. But no, I didn't. I was bad on all those things like ice skating and roller skating that other people have a natural affinity for. I have no natural affinity for them.
Yeah, it's funny. I had this conversation recently with my wife because we were visiting her mom, who still lives in her hometown, and we were running some errand, and there was the place that I guess was where the roller rink was back in the day. And she started on a whole long soliloquy about that, and I think referenced the same movie that you're referencing. And I was like, yeah,
oh, really?
That all kind of mostly missed me. Like I definitely remember going to roller rinks a couple of times and thinking it was like pretty stupid, but that's about it for me.
Such a snob.
I was at such a young age with nothing to be snobby about. I really was. It was.
Yeah, me too, I guess. But I chose different things. Back on the music side of things, there was a lot of cool stuff coming out of the punk and new wave scenes being driven largely from the UK.
Yeah, and you can see the dichotomy in the charts from the year. The singles are really dominated by disco. The Bee Gees had 3 of the top 10 for the year, and then there's a fourth from Andy Gibb, who was, of course, one of the Bees G. as a
Bees
solo,
G?
the Brothers Gibb. On the album side, the Grease soundtrack was number one, which was sort of its own thing. But then you have Parallel Lines by Blondie made the top 10. The
One
Steve,
of my first purchased LPs.
and which is actually a little bit disco influenced when you really get into it. You have the Steve Miller Band's Greatest Hits, which is not at all disco influenced, but is something that I actually think stands up surprisingly well. Emphasis on the word surprisingly there. You had Dire Straits' debut album. And then also in the top 10, you had offerings from the likes of Rod Stewart, Van Halen, Boston with the famous album cover, Foreigner, and of course, our best pal, Billy Joel.
Yes, and I'm watching more of that doc on him, and it is really great. And I am softening very much
Well,
on Billy
keep
Joel.
keep that off the show because it's a good bit that we do that we don't like Billy Joel. So you should whatever.
Oh, I hate Billy Joel.
All right,
I hate
good.
Billy
There you
Joel.
go.
Okay, and you cued a funny memory, which was I had a babysitter named Colleen who I loved dearly when I was a kid, and I remember going to Warehouse Records in East Lansing with her, and she was mid-20s or early 20s college student, and she was making lusty comments about David Lee Roth on the cover of the Van Halen record, and I just remember being like kind of confused about it all. It just didn't occur to me that adults were lusty, I think. So she's making all these comments, and I'm like, what's going on here? So there were some other notable offerings. We talked about Blondie. Magazine is a great British sort of punk new wave act that I think a lot of doesn't get as much notice as they deserve. They're really, I think, significant track called Shot by Both Sides would be worth checking out for those curious. And of course, Susie and the Banshees came out with The Scream and had Hong Kong Garden, Wire, XTC, The Cars, Devo. All of these things were coming out in rapid succession and a little too soon for me to appreciate in real time, but soon to be appreciated very much.
Devo, by the way, speaking of documentaries, because apparently every musical act ever now has a documentary on Netflix. The Devo one is absolutely fascinating. I watched it last week, and like those guys were freaks, man. But in a really good way. And
Akron, Ohio's finest.
Akron, Ohio's finest. They were around for like a long time before they made it. And weren't really interested in making it. I mean, they go back to the early
like Pulp.
They go back to the early 70s. Actually, they were students at Kent State when the shooting happened. They were part of the crowd, that got shot at by the National Guard. And they were just like, they were guys who had been art students who had day jobs. And this was their art project that they did on the side, was they had this weird band that promoted this idea of de-evolution. And when the punk revolution happened, they were like, well, we could probably get in on this. And also they actually just realized like, hey, when we play these songs we've been playing faster and louder, they're better. And like, it just made it work somehow. But anyway, I just wanted to point out about this year that two of the artists that I know you love, Dave, Bruce Springsteen and Elvis Costello, had their best albums come out in 1978 in Darkness on the Edge of Town for Bruce and This Year's Model for Elvis, both of which are just like banger after banger. Darkness from Bruce, especially like when you see him in concert, in the last 20 years now, songs are the ones that somehow still hold up as like his absolute masterworks. It is just goodness all around.
Well, I mean, I guess I could call Elvis Costello a banger for insomniacs trying to. I love that pain in your face. That's so beautiful. I endeavored to give old Elvis a second listen, as I have, kind of like the Microsoft operating system. Like every 5 to 10 years, I think, sure, this thing has been around so long. surely there must be more to appreciate about it. And I'll get on.
That is a metaphor that has probably never been put into play before.
Yeah, it's just like, if it lasts this long, there must be something there. And then I put it on, and I'm like, I mean, I get that some of these are popular. So people, good people, nice people appreciate Elvis Costello. Doesn't speak to me. Just doesn't speak to me.
I mean, this year's model has like radio on it. It has I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. It has Pump It Up. It has like so many songs that are smart and just bursting with energy and emotion and passion and at the same time have those like boppy organ riffs and like guitar to them. Like they're just it dumbfounds me, Dave, that you, as a person who I usually think of as having some reasonable sense of taste and intelligence, can't get it. But couple of other things.
Well, hold on. I want to go back to this because I've really honestly, it's like sometimes when things speak to like enough people that I think highly of, I think, what's up with my not responding to this at all? And I was like, well, maybe it's because he just seemed like he seems sort of annoying to me. And, but it's like, well, I mean, or maybe it's his like kind of nasally voice that I don't really like or whatever. But then I was thinking about Rick Ocasek in the Cars, who is kind of, I don't think he's nasally, but they have like similar features, and I don't know, like that. I don't know. I just, like this, it's like people's intuitive reaction to music is such a mystery, I think, in some ways. Like I know this is a big riff, but I was thinking about it before we came on. I spent a lot of time putting together a mix of my favorite songs by the band Slowdive, and I put it into a Spotify list. I even made special artwork for it. Super proud of it. It took a long time to put together. And I posted it on a Reddit of Slowdive fans. And so these are my people, right? Slowdive fans, just like me. And it didn't get as many responses as I was hoping for, but one person was upset that I didn't include any tracks from one of their records that was more experimental, but I never liked the super experimental stuff. But someone else said, what about this song from this other album, which I really like the album? And then the person went on at some length about how meaningful that song was to them. And I was like, gosh, did I overlook it? I went and listened to it again. I'm like, yeah, it's a good song, but doesn't really speak to me. And, there's some things about it that I don't really respond to. And it's like, even among a fan base of a very, very particular sound, you can have huge disagreements over, or you can have huge divergences of reaction to things. And, that's people, that's subjectivity. It's interesting.
It is. And
you just can't figure it out.
There are things, and I don't think it's just music. I mean, I feel the same way about other cultural forms too, right? That there are just things that like I can recognize intellectually are like lots of people think this is good, and I can see why they think it's good. Like I can recognize the things in it that they're responding to, but I just don't respond to those things. And that, I guess, is one of the things that makes life interesting, right? Is that we're not all the same in all these ways.
I wonder if AI will ever figure this out. Like, could I go into AI, not now, but in 10 years, and could it be like, oh, well, the reason you don't like it is this?
God, I hope
I don't
not.
think so.
I really hope not.
Right. And yeah. Okay. Sorry,
anyway,
I've taken this away.
No. That's great. This was a good discussion. And before we move on, I just do want to note a couple other things from that year that I think were significant. One is somebody we haven't talked about, and a style of music we haven't talked at all about, Bob Marley and the reggae movement that had a lot going on in the 70s and was extremely influential musically and in other ways. Anyway, 78 was a big year for him, the Kaya album. And also that was the year that he put on the One Love concert trying to promote political unity in Jamaica. which I guess was the focus of the biopic about him, which I haven't seen, but was a really, I think, important moment in the history of that country, as I understand, based on my extraordinarily limited knowledge. And then also, of course, that year, John Lydon, who had previously been known or briefly been known as Johnny Rotten, sort of came out of the wreckage of the Sex Pistols and started Public Image Limited, which a lot of people point to as the beginning of, literally post-punk and new wave. And that's a great first album there too. So I don't know if you have anything to add or we can move on.
No, that's that's good stuff. It occurred to me also that Bob Marley was, at least for me, the first person to direct the general public towards the glories of marijuana. Not that
I don't know that he was the first.
Yeah, probably not.
There was a lot
for me, it was like the first time I was hearing about weed from a mainstream cultural standpoint, which I went on to have a grand total of 1 joint in my life.
Is that true? Really?
Yeah, in Iceland.
Did you inhale?
I don't know what I did.
All right.
I kissed a movie star that night, though, so that was kind of amazing.
All right, now we have to go into this a little bit more and say what movie star we're talking about.
This is good. Well, so she was Victoria Abril, who was a star of early Almodovar films, including Tie Me Up and Tie Me Down. And I got sort of a weird thing. I had gotten to be friends with the manager of a band called Goose Goose that was from Iceland. And I went over there and he put me in touch with some other people, and turned out there was a film being worked on, and they were having a rap party, and I got invited to the rap party and she was starring in it. And she I was like sitting at this table in this subterranean restaurant that was like 100 feet below the surface. It was kind of wild. Long table, all these like artsy Icelandic types, including members of Sigur Rós were there that night. That was, I don't even know how it happened, but she just kissed me in front of everyone, and I was definitely probably the least attractive man in the room. So it was like, I think she was just being shocking or something, but I'm all for it. I can say that I kissed a movie star once.
There you go. Okay, television time now. We had continued domination in the ratings from a small pool of shows and spinoffs from them. So within the top 10, you had, this is not in order, Happy Days and 2 of its spinoffs, Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy, plus Three's Company and its spinoff, The Ropers. So, it's all going on. The Mork and Mindy thing, I remember everybody in the world of 10-year-olds absolutely loving that show. And that was our introduction to Robin Williams.
Nanu.
There you go. There you go. I think that could be it. And I was remembering actually that summer, my cousin Chris, who's a couple years younger than me, who oddly I am going to be seeing tomorrow, he lived in Chicago. He used to come every summer to stay with my aunt and uncle in Brooklyn and visit them, who were people who definitely were not in tune with, Mork and Mindy level pop culture. And his whole thing was at 3:00 every afternoon, he had to stand on his head and call Orson. And they were like so baffled. My aunt and uncle were just like, didn't know what to do with this. And he was insistent that it had to happen on time every day. So that's
which do you want to fill in our listeners / viewers on what you're talking about in case they don't have a recollection of that part?
Yeah. So at the end of every episode of Mork and Mindy, and I guess we should go all the way back to explain that Mork and Mindy starred Robin Williams as an alien who ended up living in Boulder, Colorado, with a violinist in the local symphony,
as they do.
named Mindy, as they do. And by alien, we mean space alien. So if ICE is listening, don't get panicky. But he, at the end of every show, he would stand on his head, or maybe that was just something my cousin came up with. I don't know. But he would report in on what he had seen over the course of the previous half hour to his supervisor back on Ork.
Did you say
whose
Earth to
name
Orson?
Yes, come in Orson.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are the days. Well, there were some other big debuts: Incredible Hulk, Battlestar Galactica, which my friends all love. The Battlestar Galactica board game, that a modern version of that. That's like a cool one.
And is it based on the original 1978 show or on the remake that was more recent?
I think it's
And was actually, I think, much
one.
more popular.
I have no idea.
Yeah, all right.
It's there's Cylons that was probably in both of them. So who knows?
I didn't watch either of them, but yeah. So
yeah, I like Cylons. They had like this cool like red light moving back and forth, and that was before Knight Rider. The White Shadow, which high points in white guys coming to save the day for black people. And other offensive tropes of traditional pop culture.
Great show. Like, don't badmouth The White Shadow.
Yeah, no, it was a good show. I liked it. And
not all the kids who needed saving were black. There was Salami. Don't forget Salami.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's some proof of thoughtful cultural references right there. Okay, and then WKRP in Cincinnati, which I think involved a number of things, but Lonnie Anderson was the part that I remember best. Fat Albert, Super Friends, Star Wars, and of course the Micronauts, which were cool alien space figures. And I went on a very, very long-term obsessive effort to acquire a Micronaut that I read about in a magazine, but hadn't come out yet. It would call, was it Circus, I think, or something like that. It was a toy store that had the best toys around. And every month or a few weeks, I'd be like, did you get the new Micronaut? And they'd never got it. And I figured out years and years later that it had been previewed in print, but then they decided not to release it. But I never knew that. So I just obsessed about it for a year or plus after that image was put into circulation. Anyway, Dallas with JR getting shot. That was a big one that came out.
And shot, though, was not till later, right? I don't think that was the first season.
I thought it was, but I don't know. No. Yeah, no, he did not get shot that season. It was just, that was the peak of it. And of course, the quasi celebration of gluttonous Texas wealth that exists to this day. And not just Texas gluttonous wealth, but all kinds of it.
And that was like a huge global phenomenon. I've met people definitely our age from various parts of the world who talk about like, that was their image of America, right? It was like Dallas was what they thought everything was going to be.
Yeah. Kind of like Lone Ranger was a couple decades earlier, I suppose.
Set in similar terrain, I guess. I don't know where Lone Ranger was supposed to be. But
I don't think it would have been Texas, but maybe.
Yeah.
Well, in the spirit of television, perhaps we should go to break.
Okay. Watch these important messages.
I'm not going to make the same mistake. Next time, I want my money's worth.
You asked for it. Your money's worth and more. The Toyota Celica. If you can find a better built small car than Toyota, buy it. We bet you can't. Toyotas are built to perform, to take it, to last. Now's the time to see how much satisfaction you can get for your money.
I'm finally going to get my money's worth.
More.
More.
Ask for it, you got it, Toyota.
All right, we are back and ready to wrap things up, and that means wormholes. That special time when each of us presents a lovingly selected offering of some new fact we've learned, or thing we've discovered, or really whatever last-minute thing we came up with that we feel like talking about today. It was very last minute today because I had something else that then got referenced in the episode, and I decided to change. So let's get some wormholosity from you.
All right. Well, I had the good fortune recently, or maybe it wasn't good fortune, it was just fortune, of finding myself spending a day in Puxatawny, PA. So this is I guess sort of a seasonally inappropriate wormhole for late fall when we're recording now. But I was
We're all about seasonal inappropriateness. That's
all right,
like the
good.
best kind, really.
I hope so. But anyway, for those who don't know, Puxatawny is the place that famously claims itself to be the Groundhog Day capital of the world. The movie Groundhog Day is set there, et cetera, et cetera. And I did some research by way of reading the two documents that were taped up above the urinals of the place that I was at.
Isn't that how you do most of your research?
It is, actually.
What are the best urinals for research, David?
Well, the Puxatawny Country Club, it turns out, has some good ones. And I took pictures of these signs so we can post them. And if people want to pause and learn everything there is to learn about groundhogs, they can. But I'm just going to share here one fact from the All About Groundhogs fact sheet, and then one from the Puxatawny Phil fact sheet. But the one fact is that groundhogs are fierce fighters, Dave, and can hold their own against their enemies, which include humans. So watch out.
So we're like, did you get in a fight with a groundhog?
Yeah. Dogs, coyotes, foxes, bears, bobcat, mink, hawks, weasels, and owls. So a lot of enemies for the groundhogs. And then the fact off of Puxatawny Phil's.
I want to see a groundhog owl street fight. That sounds outstanding.
Dave, that could probably be arranged for the right amount of money if you took yourself to Puxatawny. But the FAQ that I just wanted to call out here, and I am not vouching for the truthfulness of this statement at all. In fact, I'm going to say right now I'm a little bit skeptical. But anyway, it says that there has only ever been one Puxatawny Phil. He gets his longevity from drinking the elixir of life, a groundhog punch with a secret recipe. Each sip, which is administered every summer at the groundhog picnic, gives him 7 more years of life. So there you have it, Dave. That is where you're getting your weather forecasts from.
I mean, that sounds great. I want some of that elixir.
I think it's only for groundhogs, unfortunately.
Oh, damn it. Okay. All right.
Big Pharma is hiding it all from us.
That's right. It's all a plot. It's a plot.
Big Pharma and Big Groundhog are in cahoots. Do
you think Punxsutawney Phil likes to have vaccinations? Do you think he believes he/she? Oh, don't see he. It's a Phil.
Yeah.
Unless it's Philomena.
Phyllis. It could be.
Phyllis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I too have a.
Wait, Dave. The fact that you just used the word vaccinations means that this podcast is now going to be blocked on all the major platforms, probably. But go ahead. Continue.
You mean, didn't your ice reference do the trick? Yeah. Well, they're all coming for us, so whatever. I was going to do it about the first GPS, but we covered that, and so I had a fun moment with my daughter yesterday. She, like lots of Southern-born young women, likes her country. I'm pleased to see that she's gravitating at least to old school country and not so much of the pop stuff of the moment. So she likes her Johnny Cash and other great Arkansans.
Way to go, Matt.
But she's also developed a taste for soul. She really likes Aretha Franklin.
Awesome.
And she had a song on yesterday, which I'd love to give her a ton of credit for. I'm like, how did you discover this? And she's like, the algorithm gave it to me. But it was Gladys Knight and the Pips, Midnight Train to Georgia. And great song. And, it's one of those songs where, like, I've known it for a million years. I've heard it over and over. But, it's one of those things that's like perennially there, but you never really focus on it until you really focus on it. And I found myself, as we were driving, just turning it up more and more and more over the course of the song. And it was this is a thing I don't say often, but it is a perfect song. It is absolutely.
It is It is way up there, certainly. Yeah.
It's amazing. And there's
And let's just
so
give
many like
credit to the fact that that is a song whose greatness is probably less about Gladys Knight and more about the Pips.
I don't know.
It's the
I don't know
background.
enough
It's
about
it's the background vocals to me that make that thing.
Well, that was something I was really loving the background vocals. So I have zero beef with your elevation of the background vocals, but also Gladys Knight's voice is majestic in that song, and there's so much range in it, from like kind of delicate to more muscular to just belting it out and soulful all the way. Like it's a masterwork, and the session musicians playing on it, like spot on. Like there is not one note out of place in that whole song. So of course, go listen to it. Listen to it 10 times in a row. You can't go wrong. But most people have. So here's a little data I learned about it that only enriches it in a million different ways. First of all, she didn't write the song. It was written for her by a guy named Jim Weatherly, a white guy who did write a number of soul songs, but that's clearly his greatest contribution, who is a former quarterback for Ole Miss.
Wow.
On a national championship team.
So it's like him and Eli Manning and Jackson Dart are all of a piece there. Yeah.
It gets better. So he was calling a friend. The genesis of the song was that a phrase was uttered to him. And he was calling someone, and he dialed a wrong number. He called someone else he knew. He was trying to dial his friend Lee Majors, the $6 million man. That's who he was trying to dial, but Lee Majors didn't pick up. You know who picked up?
Gladys Knight.
Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Farrah Fawcett picks up and informs him that he's on a midnight plane to Houston. And he thinks to himself, that's a great line.
So,
and then
it wasn't that he dialed the wrong number, right? Because weren't they married? Lee Majors,
I think they were dating at the
Fawcett?
time.
Yeah, okay.
She was not the expected person.
Right.
But he did dial. He wasn't trying to dial Lee Majors. He was trying to dial someone else. He mistakenly called Lee Majors,
all right.
and then Farrah Fawcett picked up.
Sorry, I lost the thread there.
You got a national championship quarterback. You got Farrah Fawcett, who's already been discussed, and Lee Majors, the $6 million man, and then one of the greatest R&B soul songs ever written, all rolled up in one tight little bundle. It's glorious. So go listen to that song.
That is great. I love stories like that. I heard one about I guess it's not really a Gen X thing. The song Royals by Lorde, which is a great song. The inspiration for it, she claims, is she saw a picture online somewhere of George Brett in uniform, and she's from New Zealand. She doesn't know anything about baseball. She just saw this word and the word Royals, and that somehow sparked something and led to this song.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. Have you, by the way, there's an artist my kids are really into, Megan Maroney. Have we discussed her? Kind of a pop country star.
We haven't. I know who she is. I mean, I know. Yeah.
She's great, actually.
Yeah.
And she has, that song Tennessee Orange of hers?
Yeah.
That is a brilliant song. That is what a great song and a clever topic, and so perfectly observed in a way that's sort of surprising. Anyway, music is awesome.
It is. And I like that we've now, in the course of this hour that was supposed to be just reflecting casually on 1978, we've now done 2 deep dives into the nature of creativity and art. Because, that's just how it happens, Dave.
That's right.
Also, I had extra caffeine today, so I'm really juiced up. Yeah.
Well, I got a little sleep deprived owing to my making a mix and doing artwork for it, but it's all in service of the greater creative good.
All right. There we go. I think now we
All right.
say our customary warm goodbyes.
Yes, and tease our future guest, Mr. David Beaubert, Hollywood honcho and great all-around dude.
All right. Looking forward to that one, which will come 2 weeks hence, or to let people in on the secrets of the reporting process in about an hour from now. But Dave, good night and good luck.
Right back at you. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And hire a drone show.